This is a real quick demo of the MUD admin system for GoMUD. It's not complete yet, but it's getting there. It's getting a lot of nice features really quickly. So I'm just going to walk through a few of them just to kind of give I don't know, a sense of the sort of things you can do. Number one is you've got this just dashboard view. It's pretty basic. It just gives you a high level view of when users are connected, how many there are, and maybe just some like high level things to watch down here to see if you have a memory leak or something, which if you're making custom code changes and whatnot, that could be useful to know. Over here, you've got basically these top level categories. They're somewhat logically grouped. The biggest group is going to be modules, because any modules that are added are going to have their own sort of uses, configs, documentation, whatever it might be. So for example, let's see, if I want to send out MUD mail with an attached item, I can go through here and say, I want to pick an item and figure out if I want to go to everyone or pick a user. I'll go ahead and I can send it to myself with a message and it'll send out a MUD mail. And there's other modules as well, which you can go ahead and customize as each module allows for. But the core functionality would be, obviously being able to search for users. So if I want to find, I'll just keep using my admin account as an example here. You get the high level account info and then the character info, which you can go through and edit and, buff whatever you want. Check out their equipment. Depending on their race, obviously some slots may be disabled. What's in their inventory or their spell book. Does this character have a shop? They're attached to characters, so you could be a traveling merchant or something like that. And a little bit about whatever pet they might happen to have. And it's very similar to in the mobs. So if I go into there and I pick a mob I want to edit, maybe a big rat, there's a little bit different information at the identity level, but when you get down to like character information, it's largely the same as everything. So here's an example of a rat that only has a body slot, so it can have a item there, but because the where is it here, the race, which is somewhere in here, I'm not seeing. Oh, it's in the character probably. Yeah, so it's a rodent which has all these slots disabled except for body. And again, all the same sort of stuff down there. There is some mob specific stuff, so you can have allegiances between groups so that they'll back each other up in a fight, or ones that they'll auto attack, just commands they'll issue randomly as they're idle. Things that they'll do or say when they're entering combat. So maybe you want them to, emote something or say something or cast a spell as they enter combat. And also, quest flag kind of stuff. And let's see here, conversations. Conversations are a tool that just lets you, it's a little complicated to look at, but it probably beats editing the YAML file for this. But essentially, you can have conversations that any two mobs or many mobs to one may have between themselves. So it could be anything where they just say stuff back and forth in a tit for tat manner, or it could be just one saying a bunch of stuff. Maybe the other one just says something or does something at the end. It could be any number of things. A conversation is a series of commands they enter. So they could drop items. They can initiate attacks, whatever it is. And essentially, this is just this is the guard conversation file in Frostfang. So if guard is in Frostfang and encounters any of these mobs, they can randomly select this conversation. It'll try to select whatever conversation has already been invoked the least. So that'll result in it, hopefully not saying the same thing over and over if you've got enough defined. And you can also say any mob, which will just be, if this guard encounters any mob, it'll kind of have a conversation between them. Conversations are between mobs and other mobs. So sometimes it's kind of interesting. You can have, like, here's a rat. It'll talk to it if it encounters another rat. They'll squeak at each other. Pets haven't really been fleshed out. There's an admin being built here. This will grow as pets get more interesting. Right now, pets basically have a few things they can do. They can help you in combat. They can carry stuff for you. They can grant you a permanent buff if you have a pet. So in the case of like an owl, for example, you get this keen awareness buff, which allows you to see, interactive nouns in the room. Race editor, you basically get to go through and disable slots and set, whatever it is about that race you want to, if they need different level scaling, all that kind of stuff. It's pretty basic. It's small, medium, or large. So can they use like a two-handed weapon in one hand? Can they fit through small holes? That sort of thing. I'm going to go a little quicker through these just to give a sense, not dally too much. Item editing has a lot of stuff you might expect for items, including if the items have a script, you can go through and edit the script for the item. That scripting will grow more in the future with a little bit more helper functionality, so you don't have to know everything right off the bat. It'll suggest, like, if you want it to trigger on a certain command or whatever, it can auto-generate or stub out some of that code for you. That's planned in the near future. Also, if you just need to balance weapons and that sort of thing, you've got this sort of quick view that kind of gives you a sense of how much damage DPS items will do and some other stats. Likewise for armor, same sort of thing, just different information. Attack messages you can edit depending on the type of weapon. There's different messages that will, be used for, selected at random unless you have it configured not to. So that when, for example, a weak hit, what the defender sees, so-and-so fires at you with their item name, causing however much damage, that sort of thing. You can add as many of these as you want, but these are the different types of, combat results that will pull from here. The room editor. So, there's a lot of stuff that can be defined for rooms, exits, all that kind of stuff. Any kind of spawn info. If there's training available here, or, if you just want certain messages to appear every so often, like, the wind is blowing or something like that, you've got idle messages. Nouns would be things that they can look at in the room, and any kind of special script for the room. Mutators are used in a variety of ways. I'm not going to get too deep into this, but basically they're usually attached to rooms, and they modify the text of the room or the behavior of the room, apply buffs to players, mobs, or whoever naturally spawns in this room. You can do all sorts of different types of stuff like that, or even temporarily create, if this mutator is active, will temporarily make an exit available, stuff like that. So the editor is there for that. Biomes, they're just, all rooms are in a biome. Usually a biome is connected to the zone, but it can be otherwise. And it's, you can basically say, like, oh, is this a biome that can catch fire, or like have a wildfire, or you can specify what the symbol is on the map for these biomes and so on. There's a buff editor. So buffs are just like statuses, really. They can be caused by potions, by spells, whatever. And they've got a lot of stuff here that I won't get into right now, and as well as scripting, but you can obviously configure all this and create new ones. You got spells. They not too complicated here. Usually what they'll do is apply some kind of a buff to someone if it's like an attack spell or what have you. But there's a system here for that and tools to administrate it. Quests, so you can specify the steps of a quest. So as somebody gets to each next step, it kind of can give them a hint and sort of track their progress and their overall state, as well as what rewards they get for completing the quest, which can include initiating another quest. Color patterns are kind of this interesting thing where you can have, just by specifying a color pattern on like an item name or something like that, you can go ahead and, have the item name get a cool effect, or in other places in the game. But you got to kind of specify what these color patterns are going to be ahead of time if you don't want to sit there and, meticulously hand build the the color styling for something. These are sort of a shorthand. Yeah, and you can go ahead and you can create new patterns, and they can be whatever you want. So and there's a few different ways they can be applied when they are used, but that's not important right now. So yeah, these are just sort of the predefined ones, but you can add more. Color aliases are just tools when coding or scripting or what have you, where you don't want to specify an ANSI color code. Instead, you want to use a text name, especially if it's something that you use all over the place, like wherever whenever a mob or an item name appears, you always want items to be a certain color. Then you just always use this item name alias, and that will ensure that all item names show in this color. So you don't always have to remember which ANSI color you used. Message Crafter is just a simple little tool for people that want this sort of thing. So you can go ahead and say, oh, I want to make this a certain color. I'll go ahead and make it a, foreground red, background, whatever, purple. And that's what it'll look like. And you can also select, more of the text if you want to make the whole thing blue. So except for the part that was colorized first. So now you've got this whole thing going on here. Keywords, these are sort of, all these are just, this is basically help files. So if you type help, all this stuff kind of shows up in there. And you can kind of have a way for them to see what they can search for help. There can be other help files that aren't listed here, but this is just for you to be able to choose what does show up in the help files. As well as aliases. So if you want, like anytime somebody says like, I don't know, help rank or help back rank, help front rank, then it'll just look up the help for protection. Command aliases, the same thing. So attack is the actual command, but if you want certain aliases that will automatically trigger A, K, kill, fight, etc., that will always remap to attack. Users can specify their own aliases, but these are global. And these aren't so important, but these are just some other configs that really affect maps and that sort of thing. We don't have to get too deep into that right now. There's a lot of configs you can set for the server as features are added or changed. More and more configs get added in as well. This section does not include module configs. And there's a deeper look into the stats of the server as it's running. You can set a refresh so they update every second or what have you. But here, let's see. Okay, it's a little bit tough to get it right on 1 second. This mouse. There we go. And so yeah, you get this. You can kind of see how much memory stuff is using, how many items there are. Again, it helps you kind of just keep track of like where your memory and resources are going, and of course, and if there's some sort of a leak or anything. The audio is like, this is for the, if somebody's using a client or even the web client, they can go through and you can have it play sounds in the code at different places. So if you want to, demo this, all that kind of stuff, plus music files, which are just located in the music folder, etc. And then finally, you got modules, which I kind of talked about a little bit. Most modules are just configurations that you can change. So like leaderboards, I can go through and say, how big I want these leaderboards to be. Some actually have additional functionality that you might actually have a tool that you can use, like Mudmail, like as I showed. Yeah, these are defined by the module, so you never know what's going to be here. And then all of these things generally interact through APIs. So there are API docs if you want to create your own, system for this. That's it. Oh, I guess I can demo. You can retheme stuff. So if you want to have if you want to use a certain look as you're using the admin, that's an option. And okay, that's it.